All right. Well, I have 2:01 Eastern Time, or 1:01 where I am, and I thought we could go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to everyone to our first ever ISPA reopening town hall. My name is Garrett Mersberger, and I'm so excited to get us started today. I heard that we had over 525 people sign up for this, so I hope you're all there, and it's just amazing to see that many number of people sign up. Today's primary focus is going to be on preparing your teams for reopening and navigating back of house operations during this period. And we have an amazing group of panelists that will introduce themselves here shortly. I want you all to know our goal in selecting these panelists and future panelists for our future town halls was that we really wanted people who have spas that are already open. They're accepting guests, they're dealing with issues. They're truly here to share their boots on the ground experiences with us as we all prepare to open our spas. But before we all get started, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Babur and to Dazzle Dry, who are generously supporting, thank you, our first town hall. Near the end of our time today, we'll be giving away some products from both of these two amazing companies. So make sure you stick around to the end to see who wins those amazing products. So with that, I think we can go ahead and get started with our panel discussion. I'm thrilled to pass it over to my good friend, Patrick Huey, who will be serving as our moderator today. So Patrick, it's all yours.
Thank you, Garrett. It's great to have everyone joining us today. First of all, I want to say a few housekeeping notes. We are in a webinar style, so we unfortunately cannot see you, but you can see us. If you do have questions while we're actually in this conversation, and we want it to be a conversation with the panelists and with you, please pop them into the chat, and we are watching that chat to filter in your questions. Thank you for the questions that are already there. If you do write a question, you may not see you only see your question, not everyone else's questions coming through. We have 1 hour for this call, and we're going to be very vigilant with the time so we don't take you over your time. And then if we have follow-ups from the questions, we will get those out to the people who have graciously given their time to us today. So before we start, I do want to say a big thank you to the ISPA staff for putting these town halls together. They have done a tremendous amount of work on these town halls. They've also done a tremendous amount of work on our ISPA toolkit, which I want to thank them for. I think we have all benefited from that. I also want to thank the 2 volunteer committees who have worked on that toolkit as well. And a special shout out to our post-COVID-19 task force, which I was proud to serve on with some of the panelists here. I will tell you, it was a great collaborative effort, and the guiding principle behind all of the efforts of our task force, our volunteers, the ISPA staff, is that we are one team. It was to unify our industry to face what's happening in the world right now as it relates to the pandemic and to COVID-19. And I think Jeremy McCarthy from Mandarin said it quite well, and I believe this firmly in my own self, that we succeed together or we stumble together. And the point of the town hall and of the toolkit is to have us all have continued and long-lasting success. So it's great to see competitors come together and share their great thoughts and their minds. So competitors became compatriots during this, and it's been a really wonderful process. And so our goal here is to share freely information. And you have some great talent here, some great thought leaders here. I'm going to have them all introduce themselves before we start, and I'll start with Tracy.
I'm Tracy, of course. I'm from Sun Valley Resort in Sun Valley, Idaho, and I'm the director of Spa and Wellness, and I oversee the spa, fitness, and pools. And we've been open for about 2.5 weeks now.
That's great, thank you. Dawn?
My name is Dawn MacLellan. I am from Palm Beach County, Florida. I'm from St. Andrews Country Club. I'm the director of Spa and Salon, and I'm also a member of the board of directors of ISPA.
Awesome. Miss Daisy Tepper? Daisy, can you hear me? So Daisy is the corporate spa director for Landry's. She's based in Houston, Texas. She also runs the Post Oak Hotel. She also comes from the Four Seasons in Sydney, Beverly Wilshire, and Los Angeles. And she's been open for about 3 weeks now, Daisy. I believe you've been open. So that's great. And we're going to get her sound working in just a minute. And then Daniel.
Hi, everybody. Daniel Poulin from Accor. I'm based at the office in Toronto. I overlook the North and Central America region. So we have about 70 fitness operations and about 30 spas in the region. Very few of them are open, but we are in the process of reopening them.
Awesome. And my name is Patrick Huey. I'm the Corporate Spa Director for Montage International, and I serve on the board with Garrett and with Dawn. So with that, we're going to jump in. Please keep your questions coming through. So the first question I'm going to go to Dawn with, because she's been open for quite some time, and we'll then round robin this. So Dawn, can you talk to us about what you've learned about supporting your team as you've gone through the reopening process?
Yes, absolutely, Patrick. We've been open about 3 weeks right now, and what we have found is that communication is key. The most important thing is communicating with the team, and prior to opening, of course, training and discussing what to expect, letting them see what the clients were reading to know exactly what the clients were to expect when they came back to the spa, so that they felt that they were empowered and had the information to share with the clients. And as things change and evolve, or if we're making changes, communicating that to them is important so that they feel that they can answer questions properly to the clients, but also to make them feel heard. I think the most important thing is to make them feel heard, because they're very stressed in their personal lives, they're stressed financially, with everything else going outside of this. Also, they need to feel that they have input. So this is not, we lead by working together as a team and letting them feel that they can have input. They're all givers, so they're giving all day. They need to feel that someone's giving back to them as well, so they feel kind of energized again and excited to be here, because the first week or two, I'm not sure if many of you experienced this, everyone's excited to be here. By week 3, we're kind of getting back into our normal groove and kind of having our mood swings and some little things, so it's important to listen to them. Listen to see if they have new ideas to make change. We've had to make some changes, which we'll talk about later, and adjustments is probably a better word. And just recognize that that change is difficult for them, and that be genuine with your answers. Don't give them cookie cutter answers. Don't give them like what we think is just the correct. Make them feel that they're heard and you're giving them the right tools to work with.
Dawn, can I just ask you to clarify a little bit? What tools are you using for communication? Are you doing one-on-ones? Are you doing staff meetings daily and lineups? How are you communicating on a regular basis with team members?
Prior to opening, we did a lot of Zoom, even when we had no opening date. Once we opened, we had a day before that we were training to get them prepared for the opening and understanding what the new protocols, we call it a team journey, that they have to go through. The way they enter, everything changed, where they eat lunch, where they enter, all of that. So we had to communicate that. Now daily, I literally walk up to every single one of them and try to not physically touch, but verbally touch each one of them. Our spa side is not open yet, just the salon. So I'm still communicating via text and little inspirational quotes to our massage therapists, just to keep them kind of in the loop and not feeling like they're out there, alone. So it's more trying to be one-on-one communication with them. We do an every other day lineup. I have had to have group meetings already, just to reiterate a few things as a group. When one would come to me with specific challenges about another. So, and it's constant communication, and I don't like to use the word policing, but constant observation, watching what they're doing. So then pulling them aside immediately and not waiting until the next day. You can't afford to make mistakes. You can't afford to make an error right now, because clients are watching everything we do. So reminding them that constantly.
Tracy, can you speak to that, what you're doing to support your team as you're going, and you've been through the reopening process and they're still, can you talk about what your process was doing?
Yeah, of course. Very similar to Dawn, communication is key. I think being very transparent with your team is very, very important. Also, one thing that we've really focused on and has come up very often is compassion. Have compassion towards your team, because everybody is dealing with the situation differently, both mentally and physically, and it's affecting people in a lot of ways that you wouldn't imagine would affect them. So being very compassionate and understanding and flexible with them returning. If they feel like they need another week, allow them another week to kind of see how the process is going and give them an opportunity to kind of make that decision to come back at their time versus saying you have to come back.
Do you have any, in terms of having people come back to work, did you have a specific strategy on who you approached first to come back, or was it based on part-time, full-time, on-call status? Was it based upon the functions they served within your spa? Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. We based it off of active full-time, started with that, and then went down the list from there. So based off of seniority, and kind of went down the list, and if, say, someone who is in seniority at the top, really wanted some time, we just kept on moving down the list. And, fortunate for us, we only have a couple therapists that are hesitant to come back, but all the other ones were very excited to, come back. But like I said, we were very, very flexible with their return date.
That's great. And Daisy, do we have your sound now, Daisy? That's great. And we're getting questions, Daisy, about PPE, masks, gloves, facial visors. Can you speak to your policies relating to that? Daisy, are there any other treatments, and then I'll go to Daniel in just a moment. Daisy, are there any other treatments that you're not offering on your menu, or have you opened the full menu for guests to you? Okay. So Daniel, my question for you relating to this is you're overseeing many properties at one time. So how are you coordinating? And I'm sure we have corporate directors or people who cover multiple locations on the call. How are you handling the reopening process for your many different locations?
Yes, thank you. So at the moment, we only have one spa that is fully open, and we have a few that have just opened the salon, like Daisy just mentioned. So we have actually been very fortunate to be able to use the amazing toolkit that was done by ISPA, where we have actually adapted that to our hotel's practice. And then what it comes down to now is, there's so many regulations that are whether states or province mandated. So the guidelines that we provide are basically just one layer that the spa director is now going to have to add a few of the other layers of the regulation that are specific to the states and sometimes also to the hotel. So we do provide very strong guidelines. We would like to see an opening that follow those guidelines. And also we work into a phase approach. We are really trying to be as cautious as we can at the beginning, because I don't think anybody will ever blame us for being too cautious. The opposite could be a disastrous situation. So we want to welcome our guests back and offer the best experience we can, but we also want to err on the side of caution, and knowing that as the weeks go by and things change and we get to understand more about this virus and about what our guests want, we can start adapting a little bit what services we offer and what facilities we are opening.
So I had a great question come through from Jennifer Shore, which is related to what we're talking about. And Garrett, please feel to jump in. Anytime you'd like to jump in, please. You've all opened, or you've opened one, and now Garrett, you're about to open or have just opened your spa. What would you have done differently in hindsight in that process? So we'll start with you, Tracy.
I think the biggest thing is probably once the spa closed is order what we needed to start preparing. I think that was the only thing that we didn't do. Well, we did, but we waited a couple weeks and most items were out of stock. But there are some items we were able to get right away and we already had in queue. But really just preparing ourselves to order those items, because even now that we're open, we're still having a hard time getting our hands on some items that we need to officially and 100% really open.
Are you talking about PPE, or are you talking about retail products, professional products?
More PPE. So, we were able to get our face masks, thank goodness, at such short notice. But, when it came to hand sanitizers, we had to dive into another department who had ordered theirs, and we wanted to be really on top of it. And at the same time, on Saturday, we just opened up our pool and fitness center. So there were a few items like signs and different things that, other departments were closed. And so we really had to take it upon ourselves to kind of create those items and really prepare to do that.
Are you seeing the same things, Dawn?
I did order quickly. I felt good about that. Silly things. I wish that I would have implemented a COVID fee when we reopened, because, and I did kind of push for it, but I wish I would have pushed harder, and I wish that I could have convinced my accounting department to also do a separate line item for my COVID expenses, because I feel like when we're looking at budget next year, a lot of this was unexpected, and it'd be nice to be able to see everything that was really, I'm doing it myself to try to keep an idea, but I just wish that we would have done some type of a COVID $2, whatever it is, because we all know the expenses of what it costs to have masks and shields and gloves and have it available for the guests as well. We do require also, like Daisy, that they're wearing masks and gloves, everyone, but the guests and the staff at all times. So, and that's a board decision that we have had made. So that was just even above me. So I just wish that we would have done some extra things to help with the expense of that.
And you all, just a yes or no, are you running your expenses related to PPE through your operational budget? Or are you doing it through CapEx or FF&E reserves? How are you handling your costs on the FF&E, on the PP&E?
Mine is going through my operational budget.
And Daisy? And Tracy?
Yep, operational.
Daniel, what did the same for the Fairmont property?
It varies from hotel to hotel. Sometimes it's regrouped under the hotel-wide expense for PPE, and then it's distributed to the department. It varies a bit, yeah.
So, and Garrett, are you seeing that at your property?
Yeah, so Patrick, we open tomorrow. So, but our plan is to run that all through our operation expenses. But I wanted to just highlight a couple things. One, so we're having our first or our second. We had a staff meeting earlier this week for half the staff, and we have a staff meeting today for the rest of the staff for opening tomorrow. And what has been amazing to me is how many questions the staff, we have to remember, they haven't been researching like we've all been researching. So they have no clue that they have to wear a mask even, or gloves, or whatever it might be. And the amount of questions, or maybe I thought they were to come in more prepared, that I've almost had to start from square one in these meetings. And so I think that would be my advice to everybody is, remember, they're not at home researching this maybe like we have been. And so, and they have so many questions, and they want to be educated because they know the staff's going to ask them, or I'm sorry, the guests are going to ask them what they're doing. What's the hotel doing? What's the resort doing? So that was one thing that really blew me away. And then I've also seen a lot of questions about what we're doing differently in the treatment room. You know, our plan for one is we want to remove all the, I'll call them the top comforter blankets, and I'm curious if other spas have done that too. We're going to just double up our sheets and have 2 sheets on, and that way we can wash everything. And all these little changes from that, from not shaking the hand to wearing masks, we're informing the guest prior to even getting into the room so that they know, so that we're relieving some of that discomfort before they even get in there. And so I'm kind of all over the board in that answer, but we open tomorrow, and this is what I'm seeing so far right now.
I will say, Daisy, can you also speak to Shane Upson, just ask what you would have done differently in hindsight as well? I will tell you. I will say one thing that I've learned from the reopening of the Montage properties that are happening that I think will help everyone on this call is that prepare for a very high call volume. So make sure that you're scheduling in your schedules for your associates, your team members. Make sure you're building into your budget room for a person to come in and answer phones, because they will ring off the hook. They will ring off the hook for days. There is pent-up demand, it seems, in most markets. So do be prepared for that. Daniel, you wanted to jump in on the hindsight question?
Sure, and I really appreciate what you're saying, Daisy. And I think that one of the advice I would give to people is to not underestimate the commitment that you will get from your team. And for this, you need to have what I would suggest a commitment statement. So, and ISPA has provided some great document on this, but basically you need to identify what are the non-negotiable for your team and what are the non-negotiable for your guests. And the more time you're going to spend into gaining the commitment of your team, the easier it will be to talk about compliance, because compliance will be what is going to take you so much time if you have to address every single issue with staff and with guests not compliant to the not negotiable. So important that the team buys into the commitment that you have towards them and they have towards you as an employer, and same with the guests. And these, again, are the non-negotiable. So there's no ways around it. This is what is going to happen in the first phase of opening. And if guests or employees are not ready to follow the commitment, I think that there's a situation where they would probably have to wait a little bit before they come back to work, or maybe turned away even as a guest if that's the situation that arises.
There's a question that's coming up that's somewhat related to this that I think is important. How are you guys handling? It seems like all of us are requiring, have some level of requirement for PPE for our therapists to wear. Are you building in breaks for them? Deborah Myers from Mandarin in Washington, D.C. asked this question. Are you building in breaks for them to take off the mask so they can have real air moving through in and out of their bodies? Or if you're having any trouble getting them to actually continue to keep wearing the PPE after you've been in operation for a while? I'll start with you, Daisy. are you seeing the same thing?
Not necessarily. We, by Florida state law, have to do 15 minutes in between each appointment. And I have the opposite problem. I have staff fussing about the fact that they have 15 minutes in between appointments because we have an assistant helping them in the salon, you know, doing cleaning over, helping turn over their pedicure units and everything. So they feel that they would rather make money, but I try to explain to them it is their health. What I did have an issue with was the shields, the face shields, because I was requiring the nail techs, hairstylists to wear them as well. I have taken it off of the nail technicians and put the table shield in between the guest and the staff member, and they're much happier, so they never complain about the mask. My stylists are struggling with the shield and the heat because they wear a shield, mask, and gloves, and they're struggling with it. It's hot, but right now it's part of our club and board requirements. So, you know, I tell them, I kind of let them tell us what they need. If they need more time, then we'll give it to them. Like Daisy, you just have to hear them.
Now, Dawn, when you go into the skin care and massage and body care, will you add an extra 15 minutes between those treatments, or will you? Yes.
Well, we have 10 minutes now, and then in our 80-minute, obviously we have 20 minutes. So, and some of our staff now, even now, need a break in between every 2 massages. Again, I kind of listen to my team member and what they need, because I don't think everyone needs exactly the same thing or wants exactly the same thing. So I will personalize it to fit what they need, but for sure they'll have 15 minutes in between. For sure, that's negotiable.
And Garrett, how are you approaching this at your?
Yeah, so I want to clarify one thing. So our resort's been open for the last 3 months, and we are required to wear masks everywhere I go at all times. And I'll tell you what, I'm not in a hot, steamy environment, and I still get tired of wearing these for an hour meeting in an air-conditioned office. And so that pain or that reality is real. Where you're going to deal with that from a therapist in a hot room saying, I can't wear this anymore. So what we've done at our spa, or the plan is for tomorrow, is we're actually assigning 2 treatment rooms to every therapist. So that way they could do back-to-backs if needed. And then we are allowing half hours though in between those rooms from getting booked, so that not only does that allow the therapist to give a half-hour break of not wearing this, you know, a little breathing time, but it also allows us to clean those rooms properly. And so we wanted to maintain back-to-back so therapists could do a back-to-back, but then they have basically a mandatory half-hour break while they have to clean one of their rooms and take a little breather. So
I just saw a great question come through about ventilation in the treatment rooms. I know we're allowing additional time, which seems to be consistent at most properties between treatment rooms. How are we handling ventilation in the treatment rooms? And what are you doing to address if you have any kind of poor ventilated rooms in your respective locations? Tracy, can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our facility, we actually have really great ventilation. We do have some treatment rooms that have windows. So we have taken, you know, a lot of our larger rooms are the ones that we're assigning first that have windows and that have the ability to open up and refresh those rooms. I do like Garrett's idea of actually assigning 2 rooms per therapist. I think that's such a great idea. We didn't even think about that. So I think that's a great idea as well. But as far as ventilation goes, we've got great ventilation right now.
And Daniel, at your properties, how are you handling the ventilation?
Yeah, same as Tracy, we do have a treatment room with windows. So we would probably open windows in between treatments. Ventilation is working quite well in our spas with proper air conditioning. So the heat should not be an issue. However, the air circulation in a COVID world may actually be something that is being brought up, but this also is the same for all of the hotel rooms in terms of, are we putting filters on the ventilation? And I think it's still too early to decide if those are actually really effective. I think there's kind of two schools in this. So we're not planning to do anything with that in terms of the room ventilation or air purification.
There's a question coming through that I think is relevant to the reopening process on the guest facing side. Are you taking temperatures at your properties? I see everyone saying yes, except for Garrett, who's saying no. Can you speak to the reason why you decided not to take? We are taking temperatures at Montage in the spa. So I'd be curious to know, Garrett, what the thought process was for your executive team in terms of not taking temperatures. Yeah,
so I wish I had a great answer to that question, Patrick, but the answer is We actually did order 8 of the temperature guns, if you will, and we don't have them yet, and yet we're still opening tomorrow. So we are opening without. We'll see how it goes, and then when we get them, we'll see if we decide to then implement that. But I'll tell you what, our resort's only at 20% occupancy this coming weekend, and my spa is sold out. So they're not worried about it's just amazing to me. They're not worried about, maybe they are, but they're still booking, and even with my low resort occupancy, my spa is going to be near 100%. So there is that pent up demand, as someone was talking about earlier.
I will say that we have taken a much more conservative route with Montage. We are taking temperatures of guests when they come to the spa. We're also taking temperatures of associates throughout the entire resorts and hotels, just to be that extra layer of caution so that we can be aware. I will tell you that if you do decide to take temperatures of guests and the temperature, you need to have a secondary screening process in place to make sure that the first reading was not an error, which can happen with thermometers. So if you do decide to go that route, make sure that you establish a secondary screening process for the guest so that you're not just refusing service to someone if they show a temperature on the first reading. So be cautious about that. Any more color from that from Dawn or Daisy or Tracy? And Daniel? Daniel, you were going to add to the temperature conversation?
Same with us. We take the temperature of all the employees upon coming to work and all the guests. The guests would only go to one temperature check if they are entering the hotel and the spa is located in the hotel where there's only one access, or they would be taking temperature at the spa if they can enter the spa directly from a separate room.
Right. Tracy, and the same for you?
Yeah, so at this time, we're not temperature checking our guests, but we are temperature checking all of our employees before they go into any service areas.
Diane just asked about a secondary screening. So what we do, Diane, is we establish a separate location from the reception desk so that if we have to have that kind of conversation, A, we want to be respectful of that guest's privacy, and B, we want to not have them in the general population if they are not feeling well. I would tell you that what's been very smart on the Montage end is that we have created a peace of mind commitment that is on our website and on every confirmation letter that goes out that details what to expect from the guest experience when they come to the spa and what our promise is to give them peace of mind when they come in. So it's a great tool to prepare them for what's going to happen. And within that document, we do say we will take your temperature when you come to the spa so that there's not going to be, hopefully, too much pushback. Now, that's the next question that's coming up is, how are you handling guests, if you're having them at this point, who are giving any kind of difficulties or pushback on the standards that we're putting into place? Dawn, can you address that? I know you've been open a little bit longer.
Well, I'm in a special circumstance, I think, because we are a private club, so we're very clear in our communication. We have eliminated our cancellation policy so that they don't feel that they have to pay for it if they cancel within 24 hours. So, but we're very clear. Like Daisy, we do not allow anyone to enter the building without gloves and temperature check and masks. So we kind of have that preliminary. But if they have had a temperature, we haven't had it yet. We had a scare, but we had them sit and rest for a minute. I think it was just walking.
Right.
You know, so, but we would have to ask them to leave. And that's a non-negotiable for us. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's definitely a non-negotiable.
Great. And then Tracy, what about you? Are you having guests who are giving any type of difficulty in terms of the guidelines you're putting in place?
So I think overall, most people are they're pretty understanding. They get the situation, and we, when they do book, we do have, kind of like a peace of mind letter also go out. Here's what to expect. Here's what we expect of you. And here's what we're doing on our end to protect you and both our team members. We have a few people, especially the older clientele in the salon, who really have a hard time wearing the mask. So, that's something that we are we're working through, but if we do have guests who refuse to wear a face mask or follow, it's a no tolerance policy right now, just for the safety of all of our guests in the area as well as our employees.
And Daisy, is that the same for you? In terms of, are you seeing guests coming through who are accepting of the new standards and guidelines that are in place? And Daniel, what is your policy as it relates to this in core? Have you decided how to handle guests in terms of the difficult guests that may come through? And then Garrett, can you follow up after Daniel?
Yes, we do not require the guests to wear a mask. We are offering masks for them to wear, but it's not a requirement at the moment. However, my advice to all the spas is to find a place where you can actually speak with a guest that needs a little bit more time and a little bit more attention, that is away from the eyes of the other guests. You know, we've all seen the social media posts where people filming interactions between not wanting to comply to a certain demand that you have. And this is not the kind of thing that you want on social media about your spa. Everybody's so passionate today about their own health, and it's easy for people to get round up about something that is happening in front of their eyes and get involved in the conversation. So you need to find a place where you can take a guest somewhere still into social distancing environment and be able to explain what are the non-negotiable with them in order for them to receive the treatment. So that's very important for us.
And Garrett?
Yeah, and we're like Daniel. We're not going to require our guests to wear masks, and this is why what I mentioned before, when we have our staff meetings, we want to educate our staff so well so that when they go out and first greet that guest, they can explain all the safety protocols that we have in place for that guest. We've tried to put it in our email confirmations. I feel like people don't read everything always, and so we really want our therapists to feel like they're the experts on what we're doing, and to really relieve those fears of the guests prior to them even getting into the treatment room. That way, if they have any questions or concerns, it's already addressed before we've started the service. And then I just wanted to highlight something. You know, I've heard a lot of, or I've seen a lot of questions about PPE, and I can't find it or I can't get it. I would recommend, for those who are looking, go out to the ISPA's website and look at our resource partners page and look. We have a lot of partners who currently still have PPE and they're selling it. So if you're looking for it, check out ISPA's website. So,
thank you for that reminder, Garrett. Yes, we have some great resource partners who have given us their information. It's online. It's great for all of us to take advantage of. Can you talk about if you're doing any kind of waiver or questionnaire related to COVID before the guest has a service? Daniel, you're shaking your head yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We have our regular intake form that has a few additional questions now. We want to ask them about their risk of exposure to COVID, but we also have a waiver form that every single guest has to sign before receiving a treatment. We did have a situation recently at the spa that is open where a guest refused to sign the waiver form, and unfortunately we were not able to provide the service to that guest. So it's a non-negotiable for us. Yeah.
Daisy? Dawn, have you used the waiver or questions related to this?
We did not in the salon side. We have a special, our property owners have a list of anyone who has left the state of Florida. Our club does not allow anyone to come to the club unless they've been here for 2 weeks back in the state. So they have a list of anyone who's traveled. So we get that list daily. However, for the massage side and skin side, I have prepared a waiver and a questionnaire that our legal committee is now reviewing because I do think it's something that I would like to implement. I think it's important. I think the staff feels a lot better. The team feels a lot better knowing that was done too. It's just not implemented yet.
And Tracy?
Yeah, same for us. We added to our intake form COVID questions, and then we've also added our legal team put some items into our waiver as well with COVID.
And are you using online signing of waivers and things of that nature before they arrive, or are you doing that in person?
We just implemented, it's all online. They're sent the waiver right before they, when they book.
And Daniel?
Same.
I see you both shaking your head, yes?
Yeah.
Can you also speak to, there's a question coming up, we'll switch gears a little bit here. Can you talk about, it's a big question coming up I see on the feed here. Are you all opening your wet areas, your steam, your sauna, your plunge pools to the public at this point?
No, we are not.
Okay.
You know, as I said, we're opening in phases, and there's different things that we are going to open. So in certain cases, if we can avoid to even open the locker room by taking the guests directly to the treatment room, certain spas are going to do this. But in most cases, we are not opening saunas and steam rooms because it's very difficult to do social distancing, and it's very difficult to be in one of those environments wearing a mask, right? So there's just too many things at this point. Whenever it comes down to pools or jacuzzis, because of the chlorine, this we don't have a problem with. But the other one is really something that in phase 1 of opening, we prefer not to open in our case.
Right. Is that consistent across the panel, not using the wet areas? Are you opening the locker areas, however, for them to use? I would imagine that have you removed communal water, communal food and snacks? Are you going to package or order service for people? That's perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
The big question coming through is how are we handling communal spaces? I'm also seeing another question that we can all answer individually about body treatments, scrubs, and wraps. I will say from the Montage side, we are still doing body treatments. We are not doing Vichy treatments at this point. So we can do a round robin very quickly. Daniel, are you doing body treatments at this point?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And Garrett, will you be offering them as well?
Same as you, body no Vichy.
Perfect. Daisy? And Dawn, are you doing Vichy and body, or?
We would be doing body once we open, yes. We don't have a Vichy.
Okay. And Tracy?
We don't have Vichy, but we are doing body.
That's great. That's great. So we focused a lot right now on the front of house. Let's take a peek at what's happening behind the curtain in the back of house, where the spa really happens. We all know that. Have you guys had to modify your back of house facilities to accommodate social distancing for your team members or associates? Can you address that, Tracy?
Yeah, so we've actually set occupancy levels in each area. So in our salon, we only allow 8 to 10 people in there. That is including our team members. So if I have 4 team members working, I will only allow the guest in there. The only, as far as our salon, which is really nice, it's locked up. You need a key to access, and nobody but the guest receiving services can go in there with the service provider unless they're a caretaker. They're able to go in there and they just have to sign a waiver. And then as far as, our massage upstairs, we're on 2 levels. So as far as upstairs, we only allow 10 people upstairs for right now. And then based off of, government regulations, we'll probably exceed that. But as of right now, we're just only allowing so many people up there.
That's great. And Daniel?
I think the back of house is going to be it is a challenge. People are feeling that the COVID lives on the front of the house, and suddenly when they go to back of house, masks are coming up, everything is coming out, and you're back into the staff room sitting next to each other. So this is part of the commitment that I discussed at the beginning. That is the commitment that we need to gain from our employees, that this is actually something that needs to be followed at all times. So it's going to be a lot of policing at the beginning. You're not going to be able to do it on your own if you are a spa leader, because you're going to be running around like a maniac. So you need to enlist other people on your team that are helping you take the time to speak to the employees as they are faced with the fears that they are coming back to work in an environment that is very, very uncertain to them.
And Daisy, your back of house, how have you structured that for?
our break room is probably our biggest challenge because, to Daniel's point, they tend to just get comfortable next to each other. Or if they're free in between appointments, I've had to tell them that they cannot sit in the break room because it's a lunch space also. So if they're free, they can't just sit there for hours and hours if other people need to come in and eat. Hopefully they're busier than that, but it does happen occasionally. Our laundry room, we've had to put X's on the floor to where it's not very big, but it can fit 2 people safely in there, that's it. And the same thing with like our back of the house hallways, it's pretty wide and large, so I don't have too much to worry about back there, but it's really, our front desk even, we can't keep now 2 people at our front desk because it's not enough space. So I've had to move one, we've had to have IT create a computer system in the back to take at least incoming calls and bookings, and then 1 person at the front. So we've had to kind of shift things there a little bit.
That's great. And as we're talking back of house, I do want to talk about the relationship with our resource partners, which is going to be shifting somewhat. And again, I do want to thank Bob and Dazzle Dry for being a part of this conversation today. I think it's really important. I think the resource partner is always one of the unsung heroes of our business who keep us afloat and keep us going in operation. How has your relationship with the resource partner shifted or changed through this process? Daisy, can you address that, please? Especially on the providing of PPE and additional hand sanitizers, our resource partners have been really fantastic in terms of shifting their business to that. And how about you, Tracy, in terms of the relationship with our resource partners? How is that going for you at this point?
No, it's been great. Just like Daisy, we've had a lot of support behind us. And if something's not available, they tell us right away. They let us know a different option that we could have. So it's been a really great relationship and support behind us to open, knowing that they do care, and us to be able to support them as well. Just that straight line of communication is so important, and they've really done a great job with that.
Exactly. And Dawn and Daniel?
For me, I had great experience. What our team was being paid when they were home, so I was able to require that they educate themselves. That's what I did. I had them send me weekly lists of what they did, but I had one of my vendors work directly with my team and just continually weekly do education classes, quiz them, and then send them free products. So it kept them excited and motivated, and it was a really great thing for me because I didn't have to worry. I knew they were engaged. She reported back to me. It was a wonderful experience. And then from the PPE standpoint, some really incredible vendors made sure they reached out and reminded us of certain things. So that's why I think I felt extra prepared too, but not in a pushy way, but in a way that I felt educated, and I felt, and a lot of the vendors creating these certification classes and different things that I required my team go on and take these classes. So again, they felt empowered and informed, not just us or management. They took these classes. So I think vendors have been, and resource partners have been just so supportive through this process and really asking what we needed.
And Daniel, are you seeing that also?
Oh, absolutely. The partners are actually true partner in our business. They're not suppliers. They are working with us. And as we're about to reopen our spas, or anybody who's about to reopen, I encourage you to really tap into the resource of your partners, because they do also want you to be successful, and they are going to go out of their way to provide you and your team with some of the perks and some of the savoir-faire or some of the tools that they have for you to be successful. Because we all heard about it, Patrick, on some of the calls. Retail is flying off the shelf, right? People have been sheltered for weeks, and people are wanting to buy and have a buying experience that is outside of buying online. So they are going to come to your spine. They're going to be taking things off the shelf by the bag. So we need to be prepared for that.
Yes. Can we speak? We have 5 minutes left, and I want to end on this note. It keeps coming up in the stream here that I'm watching. How are you addressing pricing? I know it came up about a COVID fee, but in terms of the actual pricing, are you discounting? Are you raising pricing to offset some of the unexpected expenses? Where are we all on that? Garrett, I saw you shake your head no. Do you have any news for us on that or wisdom for us on that?
Yeah, we've been all over the board in this and what we're going to do, but we've decided to not change our pricing. Now, we might throw out some great promotional offers that we're back open and that sort of thing, but we're planning to keep our pricing. We don't have an extra fee for COVID. So we're kind of like we were before, if you will, from a pricing standpoint. Our menu is much smaller. We've taken stuff off, but the pricing has stayed the same.
That's great. Daisy? Right, Dawn, is that consistent with what you're experiencing at St. Andrews?
Absolutely. We normally raise our prices in season. This was our season in October to raise prices. I feel it needs to happen. It should have happened before, but definitely for the summer. I'm not going to do the same promotional pricing I did in the summer, unless it's a unique service that's not super popular, but not on any of our popular services because the expense is just so great now.
Right. And Daniel, what is your strategy for Accor around the pricing?
Same, and the spot that has opened, which is the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess in Arizona, the phone is ringing off the hook. They even did the travel zoo promotion, but they wish they didn't have done it because people have no problem at all with the price. And not only this, but they are booking not the 60-minute treatment, but the 90-minute treatment and multiple treatments. So they've been in isolation for so long, and maybe it's just kind of the first wave of the people who are coming back that are going to do this, and then we may see a dip later on where we may need to adjust prices. But right now, people are craving our spa and they are ready to pay the price. So there's no need to lower the prices at all. Sure.
And Tracy, is that consistent?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're doing a local special next week just to kind of target our locals. We're a smaller community, so we really want to see our locals back in here. And they're booking up solid. So it's been really great for us. We are busy. But as far as changing our pricing or offering any discounts, we haven't because people are booking. They want to come in and see us. They want to be touched.
And we've also elected at Montage to hold our pricing consistent to what it was prior to COVID. So I think that is a consistent message across the board. And I saw Tara, just spas are holding their pricing in line because of the reduction in amenities. So I think you have to be very smart about your pricing. You don't want to appear to be gouging people. You don't want that story to be out at all. But it seems like holding the price integrity is going to be key to the success of the business. We have so many questions. We're going to review the questions coming through on the stream. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm going to toss it back to you, Garrett, to wrap us up. But again, thank you for our panelists and for our attendees. It's been a fantastic, I hope, thorough and informative discussion. So Garrett, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And I want to echo his comments. Special thank you to you, Patrick, for leading this discussion. Our panelists, you guys were amazing. And for all of you for asking these questions. It really just helped the flow, and no one dropped off throughout that entire hour, which is really incredible. Again, special shout out to Babor and Dazzle Drive for sponsoring today's session. Excited to post here the winners of the lucky winners of this draw. If you see your name on this screen, an ISPA staff member will be reaching out to you with some more details and how you can receive those products. So kudos to you winners. And before we go, I just want to remind everyone that we have this town hall series planned for at least the next 3 Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern. Next week's topic is more front of house activities and the overall guest experience. So again, we hope you guys can join us. Thank you to our panelists, and on behalf of ISPA, I want to thank everyone for attending today. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe.